Welcome to Secret Journey, where we pull back the curtain on the stories the world rarely tells. When you think of China, what's the first image that flashes in your mind? Is it the Great Wall, snaking like a dragon over misty, rugged peaks? The futuristic glow of cities like Shanghai, where neon signs reflect off mirrored skyscrapers and robot waiters glide across high-tech restaurants? Or maybe it's those viral videos you've seen. Exotic street food sizzling on open flames, mechanical arms crafting your latte with mechanical precision. For most of the world, China is seen as one single story. Modern, polished, unstoppable. A nation marching forward with unmatched speed. But what if I told you, that's only half the truth? Beneath the glossy skyline, behind the economic superpower headlines, lies a different China. One that's rarely photographed, almost never featured in travel brochures, but just as real. A country balancing two worlds at once. One foot rooted in centuries-old traditions, the other sprinting toward hyper-modernity. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the Secret Journey channel to explore the world and various exotic places for free. Imagine this, a nation where young professionals work 12 hours a day, 6 days a week, yet still can't afford to buy a home in the cities they help build. A land where entire metropolises, constructed to house millions, stand eerily empty. Silent monuments to a boom that raced ahead of reality. Where success is celebrated endlessly. But what's the price of that celebration? This isn't a simple story of good or bad. It's a mosaic. A complex portrait filled with contrasts, where beauty and contradiction sit side by side in quiet tension. Because here's a staggering fact. China, the world's second-largest economy, home to billion-dollar tech giants and luxury megabrands, still counts over 600 million people living on less than $5 a day. That's according to the World Bank, 2022. It's a nation at the cutting edge of innovation, artificial intelligence, quantum computing, space exploration, while at the same time monitoring online speech, censoring conversations, controlling narratives. So, what's really happening beyond the headlines? Today, we're beginning a journey into the China most people never see. The China beyond the Instagram photos, beyond the shimmering skylines, beyond the spectacle. A China that's just as complicated, just as fragile, just as fascinating. And to truly understand where China stands today, we have to look backward, to a past that continues to ripple through the present. Because here's something few people stop to consider. China isn't just a country. It's a civilization. More than 3,500 years of continuous history. Think about that. Longer than the Roman Empire. Older than Christianity. A legacy that predates the founding of the United States by thousands of years. From the legendary emperors who ruled along the winding Yellow River, to the opulence and decline of the Qing dynasty, China has cycled through eras of grandeur, collapse, renewal, again and again. And yet, walk through the streets of modern Beijing or Shanghai, and you'll feel those layers of history pressing against each other, alive and intertwined. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the Secret Journeys channel to explore the world and various exotic places for free. Picture this. You scan your face to buy a bubble tea, a transaction completed in seconds through AI. But step outside, and you might stumble upon a quiet park, where a group of elderly locals gracefully move through Tai Chi routines passed down for centuries. You might pass a glowing Tesla showroom, showcasing the future of electric cars, right next door to an ancient temple, where incense burns softly for ancestors whose names were written long before electricity was even imagined. This is China's great paradox, a place where the past never really ends, and the future never stops arriving. But what happens when those timelines collide? When ancient rituals meet digital revolutions? When a civilization tries to honor its heritage while racing at breakneck speed into the unknown? That's the China we're going to explore together. So tell me, what comes to mind for you when you think of China? And what do you think lies beneath the surface, beyond the headlines? Share your thoughts in the comments. And if you're ready to uncover the hidden layers of this powerful, complicated nation, don't forget to like this video, subscribe, and turn on notifications. Because here on Secret Journeys, we don't just show you places. We take you deeper into the heart of the human story. Stay tuned. There's so much more to see. This is the layered China, a place where time doesn't just move forward. It stacks, folds, and lingers. A country where tradition isn't sealed away in museums or confined to dusty archives. Instead, history lives, breathes, and walks alongside the present, woven into the daily rhythm of life. In the West, we often treat history as something separate, something we visit on weekends or commemorate with statues. But in China, history is embedded in how families are built, how respect is shown, how every holiday unfolds. Take Lunar New Year, for example. For most outsiders, it's seen as a colorful celebration of fireworks, lanterns, and parades. But in China, it's so much more. It's the largest annual human migration on Earth. Every year, hundreds of millions of people flood train stations and highways, returning to their ancestral homes. It's not just a trip, it's an obligation. A ritual of reunion. A moment to honor one's roots, to show respect to those who came before, to reconnect with a lineage that stretches back across centuries. And then there's filial piety, the ancient Confucian ideal of honoring one's parents and elders. It's not just a cultural suggestion. It's written into law. In China, adult children are legally required to care for their aging parents. Some provinces have even introduced fines for those who fail to visit them regularly. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the Secret Journeys channel to explore the world and various exotic places for free. Now compare that to Western ideals, where independence is often seen as the ultimate goal. In China, interdependence isn't weakness, it's a duty, a responsibility, sometimes a blessing, sometimes a burden. But here's where things get even more fascinating. While these deeply rooted traditions still shape everyday life, they're now merging, sometimes uneasily, with something else entirely. A digital revolution that's transforming China into one of the most tech-driven societies on Earth. Imagine this: a farmer in a remote village doesn't sell his peaches at the local market. Instead, he live streams himself picking fruit to thousands of online viewers, and sells out in minutes. In big cities, cash is disappearing. A scan of a QR code on your phone pays for your noodles, your taxi, even your temple offerings. Facial recognition unlocks subway gates. Algorithms power shopping, dating, education, even political conversations. In many ways, China feels more futuristic than Silicon Valley. But here's the paradox. This digital leap didn't erase tradition. It layered itself right on top of it. That's why you'll see a young influencer live streaming from a 1,000-year-old village, dressed in Hanfu, traditional Chinese robes, while talking to her fans through 5G internet. Or a grandmother sending WeChat blessings written in ancient poetry, fusing modern tech with words passed down through dynasties. This coexistence isn't always smooth. There's tension. A quiet tug-of-war between honoring the ancestors and chasing the algorithm. Between preserving heritage and keeping up with the relentless speed of change. Between staying grounded in old values and trying to outrun the competition of a digitized world. And nowhere is this tension more visible or more extreme than in China's megacities. Step into these colossal urban centers and it feels like stepping into a sci-fi film brought to life. Skyscrapers stretch impossibly high. Bullet trains hum beneath your feet. Neon signs bathe the streets in electric color. In places like Shanghai or Shenzhen, the skyline doesn't just dazzle, it radiates ambition. Every tower, every glowing LED billboard feels like a declaration. Look how far we've come. Look how fast we're rising. But peer closer. Step beyond the polished facades. And you'll notice something else, a story unfolding in the shadows of those glass towers. Because beneath the surface of these shimmering cities lies a quieter, more complicated reality. A world where wealth and struggle live side by side. In the very streets where billionaires sign deals over Michelin-starred meals, Migrant workers sweep the sidewalks for a few dollars a day. Behind luxury condos, you'll find tiny dorm rooms crammed with 8 workers sharing bunk beds. For every glowing skyscraper, there's a hidden alley where families have lived for generations in houses barely wider than a car. For every sleek electric car showroom, there's a grandmother washing clothes in a plastic basin under a flickering light bulb. This is the contrast few outsiders see, a country racing toward the future, but still carrying the weight of its past. A land where progress is undeniable, but not everyone is invited to the celebration. And so I ask you, what happens when a society moves faster than its people can catch up? When tradition and technology collide, when growth leaves some behind, when the glittering skyline hides stories no brochure will tell. Let me know what you think in the comments. And if this glimpse into the other side of China opened your eyes, hit like, subscribe, and turn on notifications. Because here on Secret Journeys, we're not just showing you places. We're exploring the hidden layers of our world, one story at a time. Stay with me. There's so much more beneath the surface. In Beijing, it's not unusual to witness a striking contradiction. A luxury shopping mall glittering with high-end designer brands stands side by side with a crumbling alleyway, where families share a single communal toilet and cook dinner over coal fires in the open air. In Shenzhen, China's crown jewel of innovation, you might meet a young software engineer coding late into the night for $1 billion startup, only to discover that he lives in a tiny, windowless capsule apartment, barely large enough to stretch his legs, nestled just a few steps away from gleaming tech headquarters. A nation rising skyward, but not rising equally. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the Secret Journeys channel to explore the world and various exotic places for free. China's urbanization has unfolded at a speed the world has rarely seen. In just 40 years, more than 700 million people have left rural villages to seek a better life in the cities. That's more than the entire population of the United States and Europe combined. An entire generation chasing opportunity. Better jobs, better education, a chance to touch the elusive promise of prosperity. But here's the reality few talk about. That dream doesn't land evenly for everyone. The very people who keep these megacities running, the migrant workers who sweep the streets, wash the glass windows of skyscrapers, deliver steaming bags of takeout, lay down subway tracks, are often excluded from the cities they've helped build. Why? Because of a policy called hukou, a household registration system that acts as an invisible wall. Without an urban hukou, these workers are shut out of public services. No guaranteed access to public schools, healthcare, affordable housing. They're essential, but treated as temporary. It's a quiet form of exclusion, not enforced by armed guards, but by bureaucratic fine print and invisible boundaries. The cities shine under their labor, but they're not truly invited to stay. And even for those who have made it into urban life, the struggle doesn't stop. In Shanghai and Beijing, home prices have spiraled so high that owning an apartment feels like a fantasy. A modest home can cost 40 times the average worker's annual salary. Young couples delay marriage. Parents drain their life savings. Grandparents pitch in every penny, just to afford a down payment on a cramped apartment. And after securing that tiny corner of sky, the pressure doesn't lift. It doubles. In the West, we talk about the rat race. In China's cities, it's more like a treadmill set to maximum speed, and stepping off isn't just scary, it feels impossible. The stress isn't about survival, it's about keeping up. Keeping up with rising costs, rising expectations, rising standards. Keeping up appearances in a culture where status signals ripple far beyond the surface. And here's the irony. In the same city where a face scan lets you breeze through a subway gate in seconds, a street vendor spends 12 hours a day just to afford a shared bunk bed in a dim basement. 2 cities in one. One reaching for the stars. The other struggling to hold its footing on the ground. And to truly understand how this divide came to be, and what it reveals about modern China, we need to go deeper. We need to explore a place where love, tradition, and societal pressure collide in a spectacle unlike anything you've ever seen. Let's step into People's Park, Shanghai. On a typical weekend, you won't hear the sound of love songs drifting through the trees. No wedding bells ringing. Instead, you'll see something quietly astonishing. Hundreds of handwritten profiles pinned to fences, clipped to umbrellas, taped onto tree trunks. Each piece of paper lists height, age, income, education, occupation. Sometimes whether the person owns property or a car. This isn't a dating app brought to life. This is Shanghai's marriage market. A place where love isn't stumbled upon at a bar or sparked through chemistry. Here, love is brokered, negotiated, reduced to data points and bullet lists. And here's the twist. Most of the people being advertised aren't even there. Instead, it's their parents. Mothers and fathers standing beneath umbrellas, scanning potential matches, swapping information, discussing suitability. Children advertised like resumes, love approached like a business transaction. Why? Because in a society where marriage is still viewed as a marker of success, where owning property can determine whether you're considered marriage material, where family honor is intertwined with social milestones, the pressure to marry isn't just personal. It's generational. It's social. It's woven into the fabric of expectation. Imagine being 28 and knowing that, somewhere, right now, your parents are standing in a park with your stats printed on a flyer, trying to sell your future. Imagine watching love, something so intimate, so personal, transformed into a transaction beneath a canopy of trees. And here's what I want you to reflect on. When love becomes a checklist, a negotiation, a transaction, what's left of the magic? Is it still love? Or something else entirely? Tell me your thoughts in the comments. And if this glimpse into China's hidden stories opened your eyes, hit like, subscribe, and turn on notifications. Because here on Secret Journey, we don't just show you places. We reveal the hidden layers, the unspoken stories, the truths most people never get to see. And trust me, we've only just begun. It's not the singles themselves who fill the park on those weekends. It's their parents, and sometimes even their grandparents, armed with printed resumes of their sons and daughters, quietly advertising them to strangers under the trees. Each profile carefully lists qualifications: age, job title, income, education, property ownership. This is where love collides with social expectation. Because in Chinese culture, marriage isn't simply a personal choice, it's a family achievement, a milestone tied to honor and legacy. And for daughters approaching, or surpassing, their early 30s, the pressure is even heavier. There's even a harsh, cutting label for them, shengnu, translated as leftover women. In a world where love is idealized, but security is prioritized, the checklist matters more than the butterflies. Stable job, prestigious degree, urban residency permit, hukou, apartment ownership. Sound less like romance and more like a loan application? You're not wrong. But beneath these checkboxes lies something deeper, a quiet fear passed down from a generation that survived scarcity and struggle. Parents who lived through political upheaval and economic uncertainty want their children to have security, even if it means sacrificing compatibility or personal affection. In China, marriage isn't just about love. It's insurance. It's stability. It's reassurance for parents who fear an uncertain future for their only child. And here's where the pressure turns invisible, but relentless. In Western cultures, marriage is often framed as a personal journey, a pursuit of love, freedom, and self-expression. But in China, it's still largely a collective decision, a negotiation shaped by family honor, generational expectations, and long-term planning. Even as dating apps like Tantan and Momo surge in popularity, many users, especially women, find themselves trapped between conflicting demands. Be modern, but modest. Be independent, but not too independent. Earn well, but not so much that you intimidate your future husband. The result? a quiet phenomenon sociologists call relationship fatigue. A deep exhaustion from trying to balance everyone else's expectations while losing sight of your own. Because when love becomes a transaction, the pressure shifts from finding someone you want to becoming someone others will choose. And in China's booming cities, that tension is growing. A tug-of-war between tradition and autonomy, between being acceptable and being authentic, between finding love and being found suitable. But here's the flicker of rebellion. More young people are starting to say no. Some are choosing to remain single. Others marry partners their parents disapprove of. Some refuse to be showcased in marriage markets or reject the expectation to match based on salary, property, and pedigree. But saying no isn't easy. In a culture where harmony is valued over disruption, to refuse isn't just a choice, it's an act of quiet rebellion. And every no ripples through family, community, tradition. And just like the pressure to marry, there are other invisible struggles unfolding across China's glittering streets. Struggles that emerge after dark. Because while cities like Shanghai and Guangzhou dazzle by day with glass towers, neon signs, and luxury storefronts, when the sun sets, another China begins to breathe. A China hidden from the brochures. A China legal in whispers, invisible in law. In a country where prostitution is technically illegal, it's surprising and revealing just how vast the underground sex industry truly is. From massage parlors tucked behind opaque curtains, to karaoke bars with secret VIP rooms, to escort services masked as tea shops. China's hidden nightlife is an open secret, and like so many things in modern China, it exists in that fragile space between survival and silence. For some, this world is a choice. For many others, it's the only door left open. Behind the polished storefronts and shimmering lights are young women, often migrants from rural villages, working to support the families they left behind. Women without urban residency permits, shut out of stable jobs, denied access to public health care, locked out of affordable housing. So they turn to the work the system refuses to acknowledge, but quietly tolerates. And here's the deeper truth. It's not just Chinese citizens. Foreign workers, students, and undocumented migrants also drift into this underground economy, filling the gaps left by exclusion and economic desperation. Because in a country chasing modernity at record speed, not everyone gets a seat at the table. And I want you to think about this. What happens when a nation builds a future so fast, it leaves entire communities stranded in its shadow? What happens when survival means navigating spaces never meant to include you, but impossible to avoid? Tell me your thoughts in the comments. And if this glimpse into China's hidden realities opened your eyes, hit like, subscribe, and turn on notifications. Because on Secret Journey, we don't just visit places. We reveal the stories no postcard will ever show you. Stay tuned. There's so much more beneath the surface. It's not the sons and daughters who stand in the marriage market beneath the trees. It's their parents, sometimes even their grandparents, clutching laminated profiles, scanning strangers' faces, exchanging polite nods as they compare the stats of their absent children. A name, an age, a degree, a salary figure, an apartment square footage, a resume for love. Because in Chinese culture, marriage isn't just a private milestone. It's a family achievement, a societal expectation, a symbol of success passed from generation to generation. And for daughters nearing or crossing the age of 30, the stakes grow sharper. There's even a harsh, stigmatizing term, shangnu, leftover woman. A label that sticks not because of character or capability, but simply because time passed and a ring never arrived. In this marketplace of matrimony, love isn't the main currency. It's security, stability, a checklist of must-haves, well-paying, stable job, prestigious university degree, urban hukou, the coveted residency permit, apartment ownership. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the Secret Journeys channel to explore the world and various exotic places for free. If it sounds less like romance and more like a job interview, you're already starting to understand the deeper truth. Behind these checkboxes lies a powerful force: fear. A fear inherited from a generation that endured political turmoil, poverty, scarcity. Parents who lived through upheaval want their children's futures locked in, protected, even if it means choosing certainty over compatibility, survival over affection. In the West, marriage is often framed as an individual's journey, a story of love, freedom, self-expression. But in China, marriage is still deeply collective, negotiated, tied not just to two people, but to two families, two legacies, two sets of hopes for stability. Even as dating apps like Tantan and Momo attract millions of young users, the tension remains. Women especially feel the squeeze of contradictory demands. Be modern, but modest. Be independent, but never outshine your future husband. Earn well, but not so well you intimidate him. And this quiet pressure leads to something few outside China talk about: relationship fatigue. A burnout not from love itself, but from the relentless effort of living up to everyone else's expectations. Trying to be perfect for a spouse who hasn't even been chosen yet. Because when love is reduced to a transaction, what's left of the desire to be seen, known, wanted for who you are? And yet, a quiet resistance is beginning to form. Some young people are saying no. No to the marriage markets. No to the spreadsheet romances. No to partners chosen for property deeds instead of passion. But saying no here isn't just a choice, it's a rebellion. In a culture where harmony is prized over disruption, turning down tradition sends ripples that touch family, community, reputation. Choosing your own path risks more than judgment, it risks becoming the family's shame. And just as love and expectation collide in the daylight, other invisible struggles unfold after dark. Because when the neon lights flicker on in cities like Shanghai and Guangzhou, another version of China quietly stirs. A version not printed on travel brochures. Not listed in official statistics. Not spoken about in polite company. In a nation where prostitution is banned, it might shock outsiders just how vast the underground sex industry truly is. Behind red lanterns and discreet signs, behind karaoke bars and massage parlors, behind cafes that aren't really cafes, an entire ecosystem of hidden transactions thrives. This isn't just about money. It's about longing, loneliness, power, pressure. China projects an image of order, a society steered by morality, law, and strict governance. But beneath that structure lie gray zones, unspoken compromises, tolerated contradictions, quiet spaces where rules bend without breaking. It's a paradox. You can't sell sex, but you can sell companionship. You can't film adult content, but suggestive live streamers collect millions in virtual tips. Everything hovers on the edge of legality. And the edge, by its nature, can never be fully acknowledged without cracking the illusion of control. In contrast, Western societies debate these issues loudly, in parliaments, in protests, in news headlines. China's debates? They're quieter, or censored, or never allowed to start. Not because the conversations aren't needed, but because they're not permitted. And that silence asks us something deeper. What does a society choose to hide? And what does it reveal about its fears, its values, its unspoken priorities? When success is measured by image, reputation, and appearances, and failure is punished with shame instead of support, then people will do whatever they must, quietly, invisibly, to survive. Some call it immorality. Others call it adaptation. But the truth? It's more complicated. Just like China itself. And if you want to see that complexity more clearly, you only have to look at the ghost cities standing silent across the land. Imagine standing in a brand new city, wide boulevards, gleaming glass towers, subway stations waiting beneath your feet. Everything ready. Everything perfect. Everything empty. This isn't a dystopian film set. It's real. One of dozens of ghost cities across China, built to house hundreds of thousands, yet eerily uninhabited. These aren't accidents. They're the echoes of one of the boldest, strangest urban experiments in modern history, built not on demand, but on speculation. As China's economy boomed, local governments turned to land sales to fund infrastructure. Developers built skyscrapers, banks poured in loans, construction soared, but the people never came. Why? Because the apartments were too expensive for locals, too far from job centers, too disconnected from real life, built not to be lived in, but to be sold. Satellite images reveal the staggering scale, enough empty apartments to house over 3 billion people, twice China's current population. Meanwhile, in cities like Chongqing, migrant workers sleep 8 to a room, paying $50 a month for a shared dorm with no running water. A tale of two cities. One real, one imagined. For a nation obsessed with progress, these ghost cities are haunting symbols. A dream of prosperity, but a misalignment of policy, economy, and human need. And here's the uncomfortable question. When a country builds more than it can inhabit, is that an economic failure? Or a failure of priorities? One urban planner put it bluntly: development for GDP's sake. Build first. Count growth later. But growth without people isn't really growth. Behind the concrete facades, the silence speaks volumes. It whispers. Progress without people is just architecture. And a dream that doesn't serve its people becomes a monument to disconnection. And as we look behind these unfinished towers, another kind of control reveals itself, not over where people live, but over how they behave. A system tracking not just actions, but attitudes. Not just rules, but responses. And the deeper we go, the clearer the tension becomes. A country racing forward, and a population quietly asking, at what cost? Tell me your thoughts in the comments. Does this challenge how you see China? Does it remind you of struggles in your own country? Hit like, subscribe, and turn on notifications. Because here on Secret Journeys, we don't just explore places, we reveal the hidden layers no one else dares to show. Stay curious. We've only just scratched the surface.